great to be here today from Southern California, and the advantage of the Zoom world that we live in now is that people are across the world and they're kind of used to these kind of things. So that's something that maybe is a positive that we can look out of this. But we have a great panel today. Like she mentioned, my name is Ryan Allen, Chapman University, and the KICS EAP podcast. So listen to us, released every Wednesday at the beginning of the month. So let me go ahead and talk about who the presenters are today and tell you a little bit about who they are as well and what they're going to talk about. So our first presenter, Irina Karimova, Vice President, Academy of Education of Tajikistan, and she'll be talking about language development in multicultural Tajikistan. And then for our next presenter, Ilha Rasulova, Program Manager, Institute of Education Development of Academy of Education of Tajikistan, relation of instruction quality and reading comprehension ability at preschool age. And then we also have Aysel Beydulieva, master student, the Institute of Education of Azerbaijan Republic, and teacher awareness on various instructional design and models. And then we have two more, Luftia Ibmetzoda, Director, Institute of Development and Academy of Education of Tajikistan, improving the quality of educational process for children with disabilities in the Republic of Tajikistan. And then our final presenter today, Aytan Suleimanova, a master student, ADA University, Classroom Management, Gender-Based Solutions. So we have a great set of presenters. I'm not sure if all of them are here. Has Irina arrived yet, or will we start? We start with Ilaha.
Irina hasn't arrived yet.
Okay, so we'll go to our second presenter, Ilha Rasulova. If you want to share your screen, oh, there you go, and take it away. And I'll be timing you, and if you run over on time, I'll be sending some messages about time.
Hello everyone, thank you, Ryan. So just a bit correction. I am from Azerbaijan, not Tajikistan. So I'm representing the Azerbaijan Republic Education Institute and the program manager. So I want to, first of all, thank you for the team organizing such a wonderful conference, and I am happy to be here as a presenter. So I want to share with the experience and with the research which is cover the instructional quality and reading comprehension skills at preschool education. So one of the international educational assessment programs is PIRLS, Progress in International Reading Literacy Study, which measures the reading literacy among the fourth graders, and which is held each 5 years. And the goal of this assessment program is to measure first of all the reading literacy, and the second reading comprehension skills of the fourth graders. Azerbaijan, like other countries, participated in this program, and as you see from the slide, that in 2011 the reading achievements of fourth graders in our country was below 500 central point, and after the interventions, trainings of the teachers, the reading comprehension achievement skills increased a bit, but still under 500 central point. Based to the previous assessment program report, and there are a lot of factors which impact on the reading comprehension skills of the fourth graders. One of them is the teaching instruction, so the quality of teaching instruction. And based on the different studies, as you see, that there is direct relation between the teaching instruction quality and the academic achievement of the students. And again, based to this PILS report, one of the dimensions of the teaching instructional quality is how many hours or how many time the teachers spent on their professional development. As you see that in 2016, the teachers of Azerbaijan, I mean, there was a survey among the teachers whose students participated in the PILS, and the 67% of the teachers of the students who participated in this program spent 16 hours and more on their professional development. And whose students got 477 points in reading achievements. And the less hours they spend on the PD, the less reading achievement they get in the reading comprehension skills. Again, based on the different studies, it showed that the gap in the reading comprehension skills of the fourth graders, it goes more deeper. So it should be, it is not the problem of the fourth graders, but it should go, it starts before the students start their formal school education. And one of the reasons is that, as you know, that the brain of the preschool aged kids develops very quickly, and at this period the cognitive and metacognitive skills also are underdeveloped. And that's why in this period the sounds recognition, word recognition, the letter formation, so all these skills started to develop at the preschool age. So starting 2018 in Azerbaijan, with the funding of UNICEF, European Union, and the local foundation, the alternative to the kindergartens, the community-based preschool education project started, which it means that at the secondary schools, the community-based preschool education centers launch. And the goal of this project is to increase the access to the preschool education among the preschool-aged children. And when in 2018 it started with 50 preschool education centers, but now we have 850 community-based preschool centers where 15 kids aged 3 and 4 attend these centers. And one of the activity of the project is to involve the teachers on professional development trainings a year, which they attend 36 hours. But based on the monitoring of these centers, we observed that, also these centers are furnished not only with the furniture, but we also provide the toys, the learning materials, and as well as the books. And based on the monitorings of 320 centers, we observed that the teachers have some poor skills on the these reading classes, and so we provided trainings, a series of trainings on reading strategies for preschool-aged kids. And then we wanted to measure their skills and knowledge that they gained after this training. So randomly selected 113 teachers. They participated in the surveys, and we wanted to know their awareness about the importance of reading comprehension skills at the preschool age. So one of the questions was that were they aware of the importance of the reading comprehensions? At only 52% of the teachers, participants of the trainings, they were aware of its importance. And after the trainings, about 90%, so the teachers have the positive feedback about this importance of the reading comprehension at preschool age. The next question was about the reading strategies, which we covered in the questions about the guidance reading, interactive reading, analyzing a text structure, open-ended questions, prediction, main word idea and sequence of stories, that if the teachers were aware about these strategies while have these reading classes at the preschool centers. And as you see from the chart that before after the trainings, their knowledge about these strategies increased a lot. The other question was about if the teachers were aware about that, how these reading strategy impact on the cognitive and metacognitive skills at this age, which is letter cognition, development of phonetics, vocabulary enrichment, critical thinking, development of the imagination, comparative skills, and the consequences. Again, based on the chart, you can see that after the training, their awareness about these skills increased of the teachers. The other issue is that while the survey of the teachers, one of the concern was that sometimes the teachers didn't know about this issue, that they were not aware that the brain of the kids at this age are underdeveloped, and that's why sometimes it is difficult for them just to make some conclusion or find the causal structure of the text, and that's why they need some adults support, intervention. And that's why before one of our question is about this intervention of the adults, that before the training, again, the teachers were not aware of this support, but after the training, their knowledge increased a bit. And as a conclusion of this survey, we found that the awareness of the teachers about the reading strategies, the impact of these reading strategies on the cognitive and metacognitive skills of the kids, and also about the benefits of the adult intervention increase. And what is interesting that we also observe the practical impact of this training, that after the training, the teachers started to prepare the book corners in their centers. They started to prepare for this reading process, because before the training, they said that when they come to the classes, they never thought that they should in advance take the books, read, and think that where they should stop, ask questions, open-ended question, or encourage the kids to make prediction, and so on. And the other interesting issue, they started to use the reading book starting from the cover. What they said, they always started from they started reading, just open the book and read, but in the retrainings, they learned that they should start from the cover of the book, where there are a lot of things that the kids can learn from the cover. Also, the other positive impact was that the teachers started to involve the parents into this process. So once a week, the parents attend these centers and they read the books for their kids. And the other issue is that it is not just reading class, but they also, while this reading process, they also integrate the math knowledge, the STEM knowledge, and the other subject within this reading process. So this is the photos, pictures from our centers. You can see the teachers in the reading process, the book corners in the centers. This is references. So that's all.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was That was great. We can open it up for questions. We can put them in the chat. I can get us started if we like. I just have a question maybe of some context about who are the teachers, like what does it take to be a teacher there, or before the training. Can you maybe talk a little bit about like how does it become how do you become a teacher, or what did they have maybe before this training?
You can see that there are a lot of numbers of these community centers, and we mainly open these centers where we don't have the public kindergartens or private kindergartens in the vulnerable places. I mean the remote villages, in the regions that there are not any kindergartens. And also we hire the people mostly, preference that they have pedagogical background, but sometimes, unfortunately, it is very difficult to find the people in the villages with the university degree. That's why we just when announced about these positions, we have two kind of hiring process. The first is a psychological test. So while the psychological test, we measure their emotional attitude, their openness for development. I mean, you see, sometimes you can also agree with me that even you can get a lot of diplomas, but if you don't have such care, love for the kids, in this case, your 5 diplomas will just waste of time. So, and the second is just interview. And after we hiring these people, we involve them into the trainings. The first, before entering the centers, we have trainings for them. So about the programs, about the psychological characteristic features of the kids, and so on. And these trainings continue the whole year. For example, starting 1st November, we have the second round of these trainings for the teachers.
That's great. Thank you. I definitely agree that degrees aren't everything. I have several, and I don't think I would be a very good elementary school teacher. So absolutely, that's an important job, and some people are just better than. Russian or in English, or you can put it in the chat as well. If not, I have another question that I can ask, but I want to make sure the audience has enough chance to think about theirs. Any others out there, or from the Russian side? Okay, so the next question, I think, for me is a natural extension of the same idea of who are the teachers. So who are the trainers? Who are the people going out to these places, or is it through digital communication, or are they physically going there, and maybe how, like, what is the follow-up, this kind of process like?
Yeah, as our majority, 90% of these centers are the remote villages, regions. Only this year we opened about 30 centers in the capital, but most of them are in the regions. Before pandemic period, we invite them to the capital because we thought that it is also some kind of motivation for them to come, to go out from the villages, because majority of them, they just don't go anywhere. So they just live in their villages. And it is the one reason. The second reason is, you see, we, within the pandemic period, we did online webinars, but we saw that it is not effective. for the teachers, because you see, again, preschool age, it is such an age, there can be a lot of stimulating games, a lot of activities, which it is not possible to do in front of the computer. And the other issue is that you can, I think that in other countries it is the same, the internet issue and also the computer. Not all the villages have very high-speed internet, and also the computers. Yes, they have smartphones, but again, it is not such effect when you have such physical training. So that's why in the period of pandemic we had webinars, but starting this year we have such opportunity to have again the trainings face-to-face, which have a great impact. And the other issue I just want again to add, if there are not any questions. So I can say that this model is very cost effective to the kindergartens, because you see, to build the kindergarten, I mean the building, also to have the staff, their salary, everything is very costly issue. And when there is such the global economic crisis, it is not possible to build in each village the kindergarten. So this is a very cost-effective model of the kindergartens, and also which is effective. We can see not maybe now, but at the primary school, at the secondary school, we'll see this impact again related to the brain development in this age, when 90% of adults' brain develop by age 5-6. So I mean, based again on the studies. So that's why it is a very critical period when the parents also should pay attention on this. And the one other issue, that parents also participate in this learning process. They don't just take their kids, go work, but because many of the parents, they just don't work. So they also participate inside of these centers, and also they learn themselves. They understand the importance of their participation in the learning and development process of their kids.
Right. Well, thank you for that. That was fantastic. And we have to move on to the next presenter now. And there should be some time at the end for maybe some mix between the presenters. I would love to see maybe a conversation between the presenters. So let's go ahead and move on to, did Irina arrive, or she wasn't able to make it yet? Okay, so let's go to Aizel Bedolayeva. You are up.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
Just, let me please share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen now?
It looks like it's loading. There you go. Yep, see it now.
No, okay. So. Oh yeah. So, okay, first of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity for sharing my thoughts, opinions with you. Today, I am Aizel Bedolayeva, and I will be presenting at Yale University. I wanted to start my speech, in fact, with a little bit background information about me. So right now, I am a second-year master's student at Yale University, and I'm very much fascinated with various instructional design strategies which different teachers use. In fact, my fascination started in 2009 when I was in my first year of my bachelor's studies. And back in those days, I was trying to find a job, something that in the field of education, but I was just a freshman at university and I couldn't find a job that I was looking for. And after some time, I was forced to accept a suggestion from a friend of mine, which was to enroll in a language school and start to learn the English language together. So I did so, and after just 4 months, to my surprise, that language school offered me a job which was to work as a language instructor. So I was very happy because I was in the field of education. However, after a very small time, I started to doubt whether I made a right decision because I was using the same type of teaching methods which I had been exposed to, which means traditional way of teaching, in which I was in the center of learning and teaching, and my students were just passive receivers. So I wasn't, truth to be told, I wasn't quite satisfied with the quality of my teaching. So I started my search. On how I can facilitate the learning process of my students so that they can enhance their learning outcomes. And I came across an interesting phrase, which was instructional design strategies. So the phrase drew my attention because I was a student of economic university, and honestly, I wasn't so much familiar with different types of pedagogical phrases. And I started to be curious about to what extent in our country other teachers are using existent, or let's say the latest instructional design strategies in order to facilitate, to promote, and to implement learning in an effective way. So because I believe that implementation of various instructional design models or strategies should be deemed an important factor in the quality of, in the attainment of quality teaching. And today, I would like to mention at this point the objectives of today's education. So I guess everyone in this conference knows that the goals of education have changed. I mean, in the past, our learning was based on rote memorization. However, the objectives of today's education is to improve skills of our students, like problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. So while talking about, since my speech will be about instruction, I would like to talk about its definition a little bit. What is instruction? So in fact, Dr. Aytekin İşmen describes instruction as a plan of teaching and learning activities in which learning is organized. The aim of instruction is to make the learning process take place. In other words, instruction deals with teaching and learning activities, and these activities should assist students to learn. But what about instructional design? According to Dr. Regulus, instructional design is a discipline that is concerned with understanding and improving one aspect of education, which is the process of instruction. In other words, creating optimal conditions to bring about desired change in students' knowledge and skills. There were some other definitions which really drew my attention while I was preparing for this conference. For example, Moore and Kissler define instructional design as a system of developing well-structured instructional materials using objectives relating to teaching strategies, systematic feedback, and evaluation. So while talking about instructional design models, I would like to mention two of them. One of them is ADDIE model, which stands for analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. The next one is very famous. Bloom's taxonomy is another design model which defines 6 levels of cognitive learning, in which learners go through the stage starting from going through the stage like remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. When it comes to instructional strategies, I would like to talk about problem-based learning, flipped classroom, games-based learning, cooperative learning. Okay, so we have these models, instructional models and instructional strategies, but where do they come from? These instructional strategies come from learning theories, which are behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, and humanism. I have just mentioned 4 of them. So according to, for instance, I will be briefly talking about each of them. According to behaviorist theory, if learners are provided with the right stimulus, then we can expect them to produce or to show us the responses which we look for. The focus of cognitivism theory is mental processes, which means that the way how information is received, organized, retrieved whenever needed. Constructivism, for example, the focus of constructivism is that we have to provide our learners with right opportunities so that they can construct their knowledge. finally, humanism says that humanism is very much interested in how humans can develop themselves to their highest potential and reach self-actualization. So why I have mentioned learning theories? Because learning theories are a source of proven instructional strategies, techniques, tactics, even knowledge. Possessing enough adequate knowledge on the strategies, techniques is of crucial importance because this is the only way in which we can facilitate or promote learning in our classrooms. So we talk about learning and learning, so I would like to define the term learning too. What is learning? Educational researchers agree that learning goes beyond everything that is memorization and information recording. For example, it is a process that leads to change, which occurs as a result of experience, increases the potential for improved in performance and future learning. So at this point, I would like to remind that all educators want their students to learn, grow, and at the same time achieve excellence. Now, as I've mentioned, in order to prepare for this conference, I conducted a small research. And in this research, in fact, 23 teachers were involved, and they were working in various educational settings like private schools, state schools, universities, and private language schools. I have also included them. I've asked them the various questions, but the more important questions were these ones. So what types of instructional design strategies do they use in their classrooms, and are there any issues which prevent them from applying various instructional design strategies? So the answers pretty much surprised me because as I have mentioned, there were like 4 categories of teachers depending on their workplaces. First of all, I would like to talk about teachers who were working in private schools. So they said that they are very well familiar with different types of instructional design models and strategies, and they have never faced any issues while applying any difference in their teaching. So they mentioned that their students like it, and even parents too have hold high expectations of their children to be educated, not in a traditional way, but in the most innovative way. So in other words, parents appreciated it very much. However, teachers who worked in state schools gave really interesting ideas about these questions. There were 2 groups of teachers. Some said that some parents are not prepared. I will start with parents. Some parents are not prepared if their children are educated in a different way. For example, let's take game-based learning or cooperative learning or a problem-based learning. We know that whenever we are applying this learning, our classrooms can become really noisy. And there are some parents who don't approve of them, and they don't like their children to go to school, to play games. I mean, they don't accept this idea and come back home. And then some of them mentioned lack of resources or funding which schools had, and they stated that these are the important factors which prevent them from applying various types of instructional strategies. 2 or 3 teachers mentioned that they were very overwhelmingly overloaded. That's why they don't have any time to sit and do some kind of research on making learning more effective, for example, by trying to apply different types of instructional strategies. And however, there were 2 very young teachers. I would like to mention their age. I mean that age range, that they were between 30 or 35. They mentioned that they use various types of activities like think, peer, share, or game-based learning in their classrooms. And they mentioned that they are very determined to continue their practices because they truly believe that this is the requirement of today's education. And they also mentioned that they face these difficulties, for example, noisy classrooms, sometimes some complaints from parents, or sometimes the motivation of students, capacity of students not to being unwilling to take part in a kind of activities, but they were determined to continue their practices. So universities more or less shared the same results for instance, lack of resources or equipment. Some mentioned being overloaded, or some mentioned having a huge number of university auditoriums, which prevent them from thinking, making their class more student-centered. And two university lecturers mentioned a very interesting points. They said that their subject is so hard and they don't have any time. So they shouldn't waste any minute of their time. Like anything that takes them off can be considered as time wasted during the class time. So finally, when it comes to language schools, language school instructors, they were pretty much open-minded. They said that they apply various or the latest instructional strategies, because they have to make their learning interesting, and they should constantly think about ways to engage learners. So I would like to talk at this stage about the benefits of applying various instructional strategies. And these benefits were mentioned by those teachers who approved using the latest method of teaching rather than educating children in traditional way of teaching. They said that using the latest form of teaching, like various instructional design strategies, improves information retention. For example, when we talk about improving information retention, we can mention teaching and learning activities, and these activities should not defeat the original purpose, which means that students, anything that represents students, anything that is considered as a newly presented information or concept should stay in the long-term memory rather than in short-term memory. And of course, it should be noted that these design strategies and models should be selected appropriately, meaning that teachers are expected to make wise decisions in relation to design strategies and the context which they are about to deliver. I will be talking a little bit more by the end of my speech. Next benefit of this is facilitates learning. For example, making use of various instructional strategies. For example, PBL, let's say, problem-based learning. Like when students becoming PBL, they become in control of their learning, and they link school activities to life, providing the life or doing the activity. It makes it easier for them to absorb learning while bridging together the prior knowledge and the newly presented concept. They also mentioned motivation, similar to facilitation. I think that I should also talk about a little bit about motivation. Students get a chance, when they get a chance to bring their contribution to the teaching and learning process, they become more motivated to participate actively during their class times. Okay, I have talked about benefits. At the same time, I would like briefly mention drawbacks while implementing various instructional design models. The situation can become complicated for teachers when a teacher tries to attend to the needs of learners with diverse interests, learning styles, and abilities. For instance, students who like lectures or presentations may find it weird to participate in cooperative learning or classroom discussions. Other students may lose their focus or concentration as a result of teacher-centered instruction design, and they may relish engagement through concept or problem-based learning. However, if you ask me, I would go along with the view that taking the same approach again and again appears to be ineffective. Our learning environments definitely need the spice to be added, and our students who tend to be resistant at the beginning of any change are more likely to change their perceptions, and once they start to reap the benefits. So as a way of conclusion, I would like to emphasize the following, which is also supported by Richard Arendt. Arendt says that while deciding which approach is the most essential one, for instance, teacher-centered versus learner-centered, or lectures versus discussion, depends on the goal of a teacher wants to accomplish. No single approach is consistently better than the other one, and it is the responsibility of teachers to make the right choice while planning or preparing their lessons. Okay, in order to prepare this talk, I referred to these sources which I wanted to share with you, and at the same time, I have come to this point where I would like to ask the audience address the audience. If they have any questions, I will be able to happily answer them.
All right, thank you for that. That was great. We open up for questions. You can put it in the chat, or you can maybe raise your hand or send a reaction, and we can call on you. And again, Russian or in English. Do we have questions from the audience? If not, I can open it up. No problem. Plenty of questions. Well, I'll just give you one that I was kind of thinking about when you were talking about you're talking about the different teachers. Can you maybe talk about the different subjects, or were you able to see the different subjects of what they were teaching? Was that something that you were able to see? I'm thinking about like, when I teach like statistics or something, that's very different than maybe when I'm teaching something related to, education pedagogy or something like that, where one might necessitate a very open and this kind of style, where the other one, it's really kind of tough to do that. So did you see differences in was that something that you could see?
Yeah, honestly, I am in the field of teaching languages. So most of the teachers I interviewed were my colleagues or people whom I knew. But at the same time, there were teachers of math, physics, and history, and even primary teachers. I mean that those teachers who were teaching in primary, they mentioned that it is possible. I mean that making use of various instructional strategies is indeed possible if teachers are motivated enough, if they have in-depth knowledge, for example, to be able to use them. There were some other concerns. For example, some teachers say that, I talked to one teacher who was teaching in primary, and she says that it is easy for students to be engaged in game-based learning. However, getting them back to out of game-based learning is really difficult. And sometimes students, another issue is that students may get used to playing games. So they may become a little bit resistant to go back, because sometimes lecturing is also efficient whenever whenever we are introducing something new, for example. So yeah, there were some different ideas relating to different subjects, like as you have already mentioned. I also mentioned in my speech that some teachers mentioned that depends on the subject. For example, in math, for example, it's not usually possible to play games, and if they play games, it can be considered like time wasted during the class time. But I think that at the end of the day, everything boils down to the experience of teachers and their competence. To what extent they are competent to be able. I'm not saying that the whole lesson should be based on games, right? I think that students need a little bit fun and relaxation so that they can feel comfortable in order to digest and process any type of information. So maybe a little bit of elements of game-based learning or different types of instructional design strategies can be added in order to enhance the quality of teaching.
Great, fantastic. And we have several from the audience as well. Let's start with Leomila Lefta from UNICEF. If you want, you can turn your mic on and ask the question if you have the means. Do you want to ask?
Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation, really great presentation. Congratulations. And I was wondering, how do you see, I know it might not have been the subject of your research, but how do you see the work with parents and how we can get their support for the use of the new methods? And in addition to that, how supportive are the managers? Because sometimes we can see the reaction from the school managers saying, what are you doing in class? You're just playing. You're so noisy. Your class is so noisy. I had an experience like very long time ago. I had an experience like that. So So these two questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So great questions. In fact, I would say that a friend of mine works in a very remote part of Baku, and for the place where she works, in fact, it is very strange for both parents and also managers to make classrooms very noisy. But I think, again, it depends on the competence of the teacher, because she provides such a kind of arguments which become really convincing, both for teachers and both for parents and also managers. I think that, again, so I can't say that I just played game, right? I have to be able to explain the rationale behind this game. What did this game give to my students? What did we learn as a result of this game, right? I think that even people, let's say that I would say that parents who have fixed mindset and who don't want to accept or to embrace new way of teaching methodologies, once they see the benefits of trying new things, new stuff in our way of teaching, I'm sure that they will become convinced to accept it. The same goes for managers as well. When managers see that students are growing, they are improving, students are growing and they are enhancing their learning outcomes, in this case, they will be I'm sure that they will be convinced, because after all, we all want our kids, no matter whether we are parents or students, parents or teachers, we all want our students to learn and to grow. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's a great question. We have one more, but we need to move on. We can save it for the last 10 minutes if you can come back and sort of address some of those questions. So we can come back to that. Thank you very much. Our next presenter, we'll see if they're here. Lutfia, are you in the audience? If not, we'll go to Aitan. I believe you're here as well.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon once again. So please let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. All right. Yep. There you go.
Okay, so I think I need to maximize it. Okay, so first in place, let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Aitan Suleymanova, having my master's degree at AD University in the Faculty of Master of Arts in Teaching and Learning. First in place, thank you so much for giving me such an opportunity to present my paper, the research. It's such an honor. Thank you. So the title is Classroom Management, Gender-Based Problems and Possible Solutions. So basically in this research, I just wanted to find out what kind of gender-based problems that teachers experience when managing the classroom and what can be the possible solutions. Before we get started with the actual research, I would like to highlight the necessity and the significance of this topic by stating that proper classroom management indeed creates an ideal environment for learning. Plus to this, we say a well-managed classroom highly impacts students' accomplishments and success in a very positive way. Plus to this, I believe if a teacher manages to create a well-established and well-organized classroom management, it will surely maximize student learning and minimize unwanted behaviors in the teaching and learning process. So I would like to give just brief information about the research, the sources that I found interesting and relevant to the research, the topic that I was trying to explore. First, research has been conducted by Jackson, and in his research, he explained that to gain peer acceptance, in fact, in the early years of high school, 14 to 16 years old, some male students often create climates of confrontation to school rules and discipline to achieve a leadership. And in the same vein, another research conducted by Antonio and Silvio, basically the results demonstrated that the univariate analysis showed that girls were more disciplined and perceived more intrinsic reasons in their teachers for maintaining discipline than boys do. However, another research done by can you see the next slide? I think I can't.
It looks like it maybe froze.
Yeah, apparently. Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
Technical issues always happen. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. So oh, okay. I think you can see it, right?
Yes.
Thank you. So another research done by Morin, in fact, put a complete opposite statement, the finding, saying that in fact, no, girls tend to violate rules more by being more rebellious in educational settings, because girls, well, female students want to show that they cannot be forced to do things they do not want to. And they demonstrate this, let's say, perception by specifically violating dress code rules as well. So I managed to find statistics done on this topic. Basically, one of the statistics conducted by US Department of Education in 2015 and 16, and another statistic was conducted by Indiana Department of Education in 2018. And if we have a deep look at a very careful analysis, these two graphs, we can see that the rates for male out-of-school suspensions, in fact, prevail the rates of female out-of-school suspensions. And my aim in this research is to find out the reason for that. Why the rates for male out-of-school suspensions prevail are higher than female out-of-school suspensions. Now my actual research, the survey findings and the result, a qualitative research was conducted with 20 respondents who are qualified in teaching, just to get their idea and try and explore the problems even further. So when there were lots of statements, they all had a very much informative and productive ideas, but I just summed them up under specific categorized statements. So when they were asked, which gender do you think tends to break classroom rules more? 19 participants voted for boys, only one respondent voted for girls. And when they were asked what are the reasons do you think for these genders, well, males and females breaking the rules and interrupting the lesson process in the classroom management, they said, because we believe girls are calmer in nature than boys. They tend to be more quiet and patient. A second, boys seek attention more, just like Jonathan explained in his research in the literature review I mentioned. And finally, they said girls are easier to manage because majority of the boys attend in class was the force of their families rather than their own will. And surprisingly, another respondent claimed that because girls and boys receive different punishments for being disruptive, boys get harsher ones than girls do, such as getting expelled from school. Girls get relaxed, knowing that they will get softer punishment anyway. And lastly, when they were asked, would you agree that girls and boys are given different punishments for being disruptive at school? They said yes. Well, one of the statement is that, agree, I give different punishments to boys and girls. For example, I do not put girls in time out in front of the whole class, but I do put boys and make them stand on their one foot depending on the level of breaking classroom rules. And lastly, it has been explained that girls are more sensitive than boys, so the punishment should also be different. Well, those were the answers that were given by these 20 respondents. But when it comes to the result, the discussion, analysis, and conclusion of this research, in my perspective, it is surely unfair to give different punishments to boys and girls. Well, apparently for these 20 participants, they experience classroom management related problems with male students more than they do with females. But the reason is that female students and female and male students get different punishments when doing the same undesired behavior, well, which fosters aggression in male students in majority of the classes. At the end, when it comes to suggestions, basically seeking to explore these problems, I would like to say that first and the most is creating friendly environment, and an effective communication should be surely boosted with students. Well, teachers should maximize negative reinforcement and minimize negative reinforcement. Well, the second, and surely males and female students should be treated differently, should be treated in the same way, not differently. Well, in the beginning of the semester, let's say, when managing the classroom, as a classroom management rule, one specific set fixed rule should be set for students, should be clearly communicated, and one specific outcome, be it positive or negative reinforcement, depending on the teacher, should be applied to both male and female students, not differently. Second of all, parental involvement is a must, surely to inhibit students from doing undesired behaviors in educational settings. Parent engagement is a must. They have to be engaged in the schooling and discipline processes so that students can feel themselves more responsible than they were doing before. Well, expectations and consequences should be clearly defined. Just like I said, it is really important to set clear expectations for students so that they know what should be followed and what will be the consequences there. And finally, to conclude, I believe the more kindness they see, the more kind they become. Thank you. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much. It looks like we have two questions from the audience. I know it looks like one's in Russian. Do we want to translate that one? But I guess while we're waiting,
I shall. The interpreter will read it.
Perfect.
The question from Yuri Skiba from Ukraine: to what extent your experiment is representative?
Is representative? You mean the reliability?
Maybe like representative sample, I guess, is potentially.
Was the students and the parents?
Or like representative of the whole country, or just is it sort of a small case study?
Well,
That's
surely,
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, surely, yes. It was not even a small scale, but that was, well, in a master's degree, we have educational psychology course. And that was the idea where I got from, to be honest. And I just wanted to explore, to find out, basically to increase teacher awareness on such kind of problems. I believe even small experiment can make huge changes. I didn't know that there were such kind of problems. I didn't know that behaving differently, giving different kind of, let's say, punishments, negative reinforcements to male students increase aggression. This is, I believe, one of the key important aspects that majority of the teachers should consider when managing the classroom. But when it comes to the being representative, well, I believe that, well, it is surely not that huge scale. So yeah, thank you.
Sure, no problem. And we have another comment. I'm not sure if you want to turn on your camera and audio, but Leomila
yeah, thank you. Yep. Thank you. Interesting presentations. I really enjoy it very much. Thank you. So regarding the representativeness, I don't know, this discussion about representativeness when it is about a qualitative study, I kind of had that before, you know, so you never know how to really present that when it's about qualitative studies, triangulation, all this kind of stuff. However, for me, it was really interesting how you come up with the conclusions. And I was just asking myself, and maybe this is just a comment, that maybe when we link it only with being expelled from the school, it is important to look at the factors that really are there in school that make the children be expelled. But however, the children come to school with some background, and they come from different families, from different environments, and I think that it would be important to in further going with the research to really look into this issue as well, because some of the reactions are not always related only to the teachers and peers action. They are not always reactions to the teachers and peers action, but it might be also some background that the child is coming with at school that comes from the family or the community. Over.
Thank you so much for sharing your productive insights. I completely agree. And looking from your perspective, yes, indeed, I think in that case, the research has been narrowed down to specifically finding out the rates for suspensions, but I will surely extend this research by integrating your perspectives as well. Thank you.
All right, so that was, we had a couple good questions from the audience. So we can, I think if no other presenters are here, which I believe it's only the three who are presenting, who have already presented, we can, or let me just confirm that real quick. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we can bring the three presenters back, and you know, I see some synergies between the three in these different sort of areas, all very different, but you know, we're trying to improve education in various ways. One, you know, starting very young, another one thinking about innovative pedagogies, and then sort of another one, these maybe potential gender divides. And it's almost like we went stair-stepping through, you know, the educational level as we sort of move up. So that's kind of interesting. I'm wondering if the presenters, do you want to maybe, do you have a question for your fellow presenter, or a comment that you saw, or maybe something that you recognized or you're familiar with in the other studies? Anything that you want to open up with? Yeah, Isa, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Since it is a chance for me, because it is obviously international audience, I would like to ask you this question. I am very much interested in to what extent educators today have moved from traditional way of teaching to, let's say, modern way of teaching. In other words, in the past, we know that I'm sure that maybe there are a lot of people who were educated in a way that we call it like teacher-centered, and today's learning styles are called learner-centered, in which the learners play an active role in the whole teaching and learning process. So because of this, I would like to use this chance and ask the question that people of different countries, to what extent are you familiar with the issues that educators have moved from a teacher-centered way of teaching to learner-centered way of teaching? Maybe any, I don't know, maybe anyone from different countries. Like, I know that today we had Uzbekistan to Turkmenistan, right? Different types of countries. And I mean that representatives of different types of countries. So I would like to know if it is possible, what they think about it.
Sure, we can open it up to everyone, or if our presenters also want to take that question, that would be great either way. Aitan, since I can see you, you know, your camera's on, do you want to take that first?
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. Well, regarding the question, in Azerbaijan, for example, in Baku, especially private schools tend to have this modern teaching strategies. They are trying to focus on more, you know, well, getting out of the traditional way of teaching students and helping them to learn through fun, not just like in a very stressed way. Because, but coming to the other countries, we've done, for example, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, cooperative-based learning. Those all are the, let's say, teaching methodologies that we have actually learned from other countries. And for example, I myself believe that using these strategies in the classroom is very much important. It in fact goes beyond teaching something. It just goes beyond giving information of any kind of specified context, but actually teaching social skills, how to solve a problem. We can teach it through problem-based learning, how to work collaboratively. Thank you. That's all I wanted to add.
Sure. Thank you. And Ilhaha, you've been patiently sitting for a while. Do you want to add anything to the discussion or to the question?
Yes, thank you very much. It was really interesting. You see, we have also the mentoring program within the project, which the best of the teachers from the community centers, they have peer support to other colleagues. But unfortunately, sometimes such kind of programs, they don't work, they fail. And I mean that the collaboration, we know that it is the best, one of the best models when the teachers can collaborate, learn from each other, not only from the experts or trainers and so on. But sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't work, not only in our country, but I know that based on the GAIN studies in other countries, it doesn't work. And it is interesting to know what's the reason why it doesn't work, because the teachers can gain a lot of, again, benefits from such kind of cooperation. But sometimes the teachers, they just don't want to share with their knowledge or skills. Maybe it is because of the time constraints, or I don't know the reason. It is always very big question for me.
Thank you very much.
Great. And you did open it up to everyone. So if anyone else wants to take that question, or maybe another question. Actually, we have one from Louis Milla. Do you want to go ahead and turn on your?
I can. I'm always concerned about not monopolizing the discussion, you know,
Nope,
coming
no problem.
too often. I was just thinking that we speak very much about our model being teacher-centered, which is true to some extent. Is it also curriculum-centered? And has that changed in the last 30 years that we are trying to bring some changes in this part of the world? And another question would be, is 30 years a good period and a sufficient period to bring changes to a mass of teachers that were prepared and taught and have their experience, some of them for 10, 20 years already, of being, you know, in this model of curriculum-centered or teacher-centered. So it's more like questions than answers. And definitely, I don't have now concrete data to show how much our model has changed in this part of the world. But these are definitely good questions to be looked at and to see why it doesn't go. And today we got very much insight from the professor in the beginning, our professor, you know, the public speaker. That was really how we design our training for the teachers. We want the change to happen, but how do we design our training? Do we think at the magnitude? Do we think at the variation? Do we really, because we don't take into consideration all these factors, and then we work ourselves based on the curriculum-centered and the fact that we know best what the teachers need, and let's teach them all in the same way, in this with the same methods, and then we expect some changes. So I think that this has to be changed as well. Our vision on how we train teachers, how we prepare teachers. Over.
Oh, thank you very much. I think that this is really an important point which you have mentioned. And I would like to say that in we have done a lot of literature review about the change which should be implemented in education in order to, let's say, optimize or maximize learning outcomes. I would like to say that in many cases, changes are imposed on teachers by taking top down. There are two types of approach I think that we can mention: bottom up and top down. Maybe 30 years of time. It's really it should be considered. It's just my point of view that it should be considered long enough in order to see some change in the field of education. However, if we cannot say this means that maybe the change were not suggested properly. Maybe all the changes were imposed top down, right? And at the end of the day, these are the teachers who shoulder the responsibility of this change, right? Maybe they were not prepared for this change. This also should be taken into consideration. And because of this, I say that maybe if change, the way we propose change, like if you want to make our learning, for example, curriculum-based learning, right? If this change, the way we propose them, in this case, if we take into consideration the role of teachers, to what extent they are open-minded, to what extent they are ready to embrace this change, maybe can make our efforts more effective. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, the change question, I think, and just the conversation on change is so important. I think, you know, if we're sitting here from maybe a younger standpoint, we say, yeah, that's enough time to sort of change and sort of move beyond. But if you're thinking about, you live in a society where 30 years ago, things are very, very different, not just at work, not just education, but everything about society has suddenly changed. So it's not just a question about changing education, but you know, everything else about you. And for myself, I've experienced that just in 2 years with COVID, right? 2 years ago, everything was very, very different. Suddenly things are different now. And we're being told, hey, you got to teach with Zoom and you got to do this and you can't, you know, all these other things. And so it's in the 2 years, I can sort of empathize with maybe what someone saw over sort of maybe a 30-year type of experience. So that's at least something to kind of think about there. Do we have other comments from our panel or maybe questions from our audience? Aitan or Ilaha?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, we did have one question we couldn't get to from Aizel, your presentation. It was from Yuri Skikba from Ukraine, and we couldn't get to it, but I'll read it here. Which strategies, in your opinion, are most effective? So that was a question. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but if you maybe want to get into a little bit more of this.
Yeah, okay. I think that it's not, it wouldn't be right to emphasize one type of strategy, and to consider this strategy the most important one. Like today we are talking about traditional way of teaching. Traditional way of teaching is based on one type of learning strategy, which is lecturing, right? Lecturing is also a way of strategy. I think that it's not right to emphasize one strategy, because a good teacher should have a report of various learning strategies, even including lecturing. Okay, so because if lecturing is implemented in a proper way, effectively, I think that this can also benefit students. So because of this, my answer would be that I hope my explanation was enough. And because of this, my explanation would be that a good teacher, an effective teacher, should be able to employ various types of learning strategies and should be well familiar with different types of learning models in order to be able to enhance the learning outcomes of his or her students. Because after all, learning, teaching is the art of learning, right? The way we teach also is closely connected with the way students learn. Because of this, I think that it will not be correct if we just emphasize one of them. So there should be a mixture of them. So only in this ways the learning can become more effective.
Great, thank you. We can open it up. Other questions? I have one that sort of popped in my mind, connecting Aitan to Ilaha. If I may, Ilaha, if I'm wondering if in your training and working with these students, you're also seeing maybe differences in working with male and female students, especially at that young age where maybe girls are maybe a little bit more mature than little boys, or it sort of takes longer for them to catch up. At least that's some of the research, or maybe parents can confirm that as well. So do you have any training like that, or any connection to some of those gendered issues?
So the question is for me or for Ayten? I didn't understand.
Yeah, for you, I'm wondering if in your training you sort of think about or bring in these gender.
So our teachers are all females. We don't have male teachers among this at our preschool centers. And so again, based on the teachers, talks that usually again, there is, I think it is stereotype saying that the boys are naughty, so their behaviors like this, but the girls are not. So it depends again on the kids and depends on their family. So I think that it is the main issue is the family environment, not the kids, because they are born the same. What I mean the same, they are not born with this behavior disorder or some these issues. So the family environment is very important, and one of the components of our project is not just to educate the teachers, but also educate the families, parents. Yes, usually the target are the mothers, because they usually take the kids to the preschool centers, but we are trying to involve fathers as well, saying that it is not only the mothers should take part in the in the development process of a kid, but the fathers also. But sometimes again, the cultural issues, so it is it is against stereotypes that the mothers should be involved in the development process, learning process of the kids. So like this.
Great, thank you. And your comment prompted a question from the audience. Natia, do you want to ask your question, or you can turn your mic or camera?
Yeah, I see the male teachers. To tell the truth, it is my own, it is subjective opinion. I would like to have male teachers as well. But again, there is some issues why we prefer female teachers, because first of all, again, as I mentioned in my presentation, that mothers, women are more emotional, they have more caregiver, so they can be more involved with the kids. First issue, it is again maybe cultural issue, I don't know. The second issue is that it is in the regions usually that as our teachers are females, so mothers usually take their kids to the center. So this is a bit again some cultural issues when if there is male teacher, maybe mothers will not take their kids to the center, so and the fathers are working, so like this. That's why we don't have in the agenda to promote to have more male teachers, especially at the preschool age. We have male teachers at the secondary school, but at the level of private, at pre-primary, it is not usual thing.
And there was a follow-up. Yeah. I'm not sure if you want to take that or mentioning. Or there's a question in Russian as well, I see.
Again, it is not the parents, but the issue is that, again, when there is male teacher at the preschool, again, as I say, in the regions, it is a different issue. So mothers usually take their kids to the centers because they are not working, they are housewives, the fathers usually they work. And if there is a male teacher, in this case, it is can be a big problem if the mothers take their kids to the pre-primary centers. Again, it is not that popular, but it can happen that again, it is cultural issues.
All right, so we have about 3 minutes left, and maybe just to wrap up that time, maybe I can just throw out this question. You have about a minute for each of the panelists. What are you going to do with this research? Where's it going to go? Or what's next? Like, what's the next part of the project? And maybe let's start in reverse order. So Aytan, do you want to take this one first? And you have about a minute.
Thank you for the question. Yes, so basically, well, the comments that I got from the audience were quite helpful and insightful. Now it made me realize what kind of, let's say, limitations of the research had. And I am planning to take this research even further and to make it a large-scale research to help teachers or basically students to establish a very well-organized and designed classroom management in educational settings. But apart from that, yes, obviously, we just keep learning and learning. So yeah, thank you. That's
all right, that sounds great. We'll look forward to that. Aysel, do you want to take that? Next question.
Next question or this question, right? Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, instructional design strategies, whether teachers are familiar with them or not. Yeah, also my research, today's research or for this research for this conference involved just 23 teachers. I'm sure that if I involve more teachers, I would get even more maybe surprising type of results, because I'm not quite familiar, or I'm not quite sure whether traditional or student teacher-centered or learning-centered way of teaching is still applied in some of the areas. Like, because in many cases, I will be completely honest with you, that I have heard it quite a lot when parents complain about issues that our children just go to schools and come back like soldiers. In many cases, I don't know why, but they compare their children the way they studied to soldiers, and maybe because there's parents feel that children don't get enough involvement in various type of learning activities. So I would like to continue this research and make it increase the scale of this research, and why I want to do it, because for me, actually, I have just one purpose in doing this. It is a way of having evidence. For me, it will be like an evidence that to convince many teachers to change their way of teaching and move from traditional way of teaching and applying the latest and most innovative form of design strategies. So this would be my main purpose why I would like to do it in a larger scale.
All right, thank you. And final comment from Ilaha, and then I'll close this down.
Yes, my focus is mainly reading comprehension issue, because I believe that, again, based on the studies and research papers, I see that it doesn't impact only on the academic achievement of the students, but on the people in the whole life. You see, sometimes the people just don't have critical opinion about sometimes you just write the message. The people don't want to read and analyze, thinking what the person wants to say. Just that's why the miscommunication happens, some other conflicts happen. That's why my focus is mostly reading comprehension, but involvement of the parents, not the teacher issue, but the parents, because based on the studies, I know that I believe that the parents are the first teachers of their kids. So focus on this one. And I also saw, if we have time, I saw one comment in the chat. They said ISEL, but it is about preschool. That's maybe this question for me, not for ISEL. Maybe for ISEL, I don't know. For kindergarten like this.
Maybe just very, very quickly, because we'll have to close this session down.
Yeah, again, maybe it is for ISEL, so that's why I don't want to answer.
Oh, okay. No problem. We have to close it down, and if you have a question, we'll send it in the audience. Come to the next session. It's the closing session. Everyone should attend. Gita Steiner-Kamsi is going to be speaking there. She's going to be there. My old professor, so I'm definitely going to go and attend. It's going to be fantastic. Everyone should come to join, and the link is in the Zoom chat right now. So click on that. So thank you everyone. Thank you to the speakers and our technical experts as well. So thank you.